If you can play Chopin's Nocturne in C minor, I'll marry you on the spot." The words floated into the polished stillness of Lyra Record's marble lobby, like a challenge whispered to ghosts. Harper Quinn didn't even glance up from her phone as she delivered the sentence, her stilettos ticking sharply against the floor, the only sound aside from the distant hum of a floor buffer echoing down the corridor. Kneeling at the base of the grand piano, a glossy black behemoth nestled in the atrium like a forgotten monument. The janitor paused mid-polish. Broad-shouldered, quiet, late 30s. He moved with a reverence more fitting a cathedral than a corporate headquarters. He ran the cloth over the piano's curved leg with the precision of a man tending a memory, not furniture. Harper finally looked up, impatient. "Did you hear me?" He turned toward her, his eyes an indistinct hue between storm gray and forest green eyes that didn't give anything away, but saw everything. He rose slowly, one hand still resting lightly on the piano bench. "I heard," he replied, voice calm as still water. "But you don't play Chopin on a dare." Harper's brow lifted, intrigued. "So you do know the piece?" He didn't reply. Instead, he folded his cloth with military precision, as if laying a flag across a coffin. She studied him a moment longer, something she couldn't name stirring uneasily in her chest, then scoffed softly and turned away. Didn't think so. She didn't know why she'd said it. Boredom, maybe, or the loneliness of reigning over an empire she didn't feel a part of. Maybe it was the absurd romance of that piano gleaming under pendant lights no one ever noticed. Or maybe it was the way he looked at it, not like a cleaner, but a mourner. Either way, the moment passed. She stepped into the elevator, swiped her badge, and vanished into the still gut of her kingdom. By the time Elliot Reed wiped the final smudge from the piano's black lacquered lid, the lobby had sunk into a hush so deep it felt holy. He glanced around once, then slid onto the bench. His fingers hovered above the keys, not pressing, just touching them, like they were embers of a long-dead fire he wasn't sure he dared reignite. He didn't play. He just sat there, eyes closed, listening to the silence shaped like a memory he'd spent years trying to forget. The next morning, Harper Quinn sipped her coffee while her assistant rattled off the day's schedule. But she wasn't listening. Her eyes drifted to the piano in the lobby. A faint smudge on its lid caught the light, impossibly subtle, but unmistakable. She remembered his hand resting there, the stillness, the restraint. "Jennifer," she interrupted. "Who's the overnight janitor?" The assistant blinked. Elliot Reed. Hired 6 months ago." "Why?" Harper didn't answer. She just stared at the piano a moment longer, then turned back to her itinerary like the question had never escaped her lips. That night, long after the suits and interns had gone home, Harper returned. The building slumbered. She didn't. Deadlines, investors, a gala she didn't care about at all pressed on her chest like stone. She shut her laptop and wandered downstairs, drawn by something wordless. The lobby lights were dimmed, the piano bathed in a soft amber glow, like candlelight on holy ground. There he was, Elliot, kneeling again, polishing the brass pedals. With the same gentle devotion as before, she cleared her throat. "I owe you an apology." He didn't look up. For what? For being condescending. That Chopin comment was stupid. This time he did pause. "Most people wouldn't remember." "I remember everything," she said. "That's how I survive." Elliot stood, his expression unreadable. "Then you should remember Chopin isn't a party trick. He's prayer set to music." She tilted her head, intrigued. "You speak like someone who's played him." "I've played a lot of things," he said quietly. "Doesn't mean I still do." "Why not?" He hesitated, then spoke softly. "Because some things stop belonging to you when you stop needing them to survive." She went still. That sounds like something a man says when he's lost more than he expected to. He met her gaze, then long, steady, and nodded once. "Good night, Miss Quinn." He turned to leave. "Wait." He stopped. She stepped toward the piano, fingertips tracing its edge. "Next time I say something reckless, call me out." "Do you say reckless things often, only when I feel something I don't understand?" His gaze softened. "You understood more than you think. You just didn't know how to say it. Upstairs, the security cameras captured only the faint stillness after they left. No one noticed the shift in the air around the piano, but the next morning, the cleaning crew found a sheet of folded paper resting gently on the music stand. No name, just for handwritten bars. A melody, a beginning, as if someone had just remembered how to remember. The applause was supposed to feel like triumph. Instead, it echoed inside Harper's chest like a storm trapped in a chapel. She stood behind the curtain, back pressed against concrete, her hands trembling. 3.5 minutes of Bach. Barely. The notes had run together. The tempo had stuttered. Her left hand had locked up halfway through, paralyzed by a memory without a name. The audience clapped politely, but she could feel the unspoken questions beneath it. Why is she up there? Was that intentional? Is she okay? She wasn't. She hadn't touched a piano in 18 years. The gala's original performer, an acclaimed pianist from Berlin, had been in a car accident hours before. Chaos erupted. In the scramble, someone asked Harper, half-jokingly, if she could play a little something. She had smiled tightly, of course, and locked herself in a practice room for 4 desperate hours, chasing muscle memory like a ghost. She should have said no, but pride is a god that demands blood, not reason. Now, backstage, she unclenched her hands and slipped out the side door. The night air sliced through her dress, clean and cold. She wanted to disappear, and then, music faint, fragile, moonlight on water. The same piece but played right. Each note a breath, each silence intentional. She followed it, heart-pounding. Behind the loading dock, in a half-lit storage bay, an old upright piano sat forgotten, and there, playing with the grace of someone who never stopped, was Elliot Reed, eyes closed, shoulders steady. He didn't play the song. He lived it. She stood, stunned. When he finally saw her, he let the final chord drift into stillness. I thought you left, he murmured. I did. Her voice barely carried. But then you played. He rose, brushing imaginary dust from his sleeves. Didn't think anyone would hear. That was Bach. He nodded. Your choice tonight. You rushed the transitions in the middle, shoulders to tense. You were listening. You were shouting. The words hit harder than expected, not cruel, just true. She took a breath. How do you know the piece? I played it once for someone who mattered. A long time ago. She stepped closer, softer now. You're not just a janitor. No more than you're just a CEO. He said, we all wear uniforms. Silence stretched between them thick, not awkward, and no waiting to resolve. Why are you here? She asked. Cleaning floors, hiding backstage. He didn't meet her eyes. Because life is a thief. It takes what you love and leaves you what you need to survive. And sometimes survival looks like pushing a mop. Her throat tightened. That's a poetic way of saying you gave up. He turned to her, not defensive. Just steady. I didn't give up. I gave everything. There's a difference. And in that moment, she saw him. Not just a man who could play, but a man who had stopped, not because he wasn't good enough, but because something else had mattered more. You should have been on that stage tonight, she said. He shook his head. It wasn't my place. Then where's your place? He looked at her, something flickering behind his eyes, grief, or maybe the ashes of it. My place is beside the person who needs me most. And with that, he stepped away from the piano as if the music had finished speaking. That night, Harper couldn't sleep. In her penthouse, she scoured old concert archives, press clippings, competition records for hours. And found nothing until finally one image, a young man at a chamber concert in Montreal. The same eyes, the same stillness. Eat Reed, finalist, St. George Classical Showcase 2005. Rising star, disappeared in 2009. Her heart pounded. He hadn't faded. He'd vanished. Let the world forget he ever burned. But she couldn't forget him. Tell me the truth, Harper said the next morning. Elliot didn't flinch, just looked up from scrubbing the executive lounge sink. About what? About who you are. She stepped into the room, shut the door. Because I've spent 3 hours combing every archive from here to Montreal. You're not just a janitor. Who knows Bach? You were a Reed, rising star, finalist. You were going to be legend. He rinsed his rag in silence. You disappeared in 2009. She continued. No scandal, no interviews, just gone. And now you push a cart down halls where people half as gifted get standing ovations. He laid the rag down gently, like it might shatter. You've done your homework. I'm thorough, she said. I don't like mysteries in my building. I'm not a mystery, he replied. I'm just a man doing his job. No, she said quietly, you're a man hiding, and I want to know why. There was a long, reverent silence, the kind that feels like the world holding its breath. Then Elliot exhaled slowly, pressing his back against the counter, arms folded with a quiet kind of weariness. You ever lose everything that made sense to you in just one moment? He asked, voice low and almost lost to the hush of the room. Harper didn't answer. You spend your life mastering something, he went on, his gaze unfocused, cast into a distance no one else could see. You breathe it, sleep it, bleed for it. Then suddenly, it's not enough, not because you failed, but because life hands you a new sheet of music foreign. Dissonant hand says, play this now. And you don't even recognize the key it's written in. What was the moment? Harper asked, almost afraid of the answer. He hesitated, then spoke with a quiet finality that settled heavily between them. My wife, cancer. She died in the spring of 2009. Our daughter was only 2. Harper's breath caught, the ache in his words reverberating through her ribs. I couldn't tour with a toddler, couldn't teach master classes and still be there when she woke up crying in the middle of the night. I had to make a choice, and you chose her, she whispered, like a prayer offered up in awe. Another pause followed, not a discomfort, but reverence, a silence that honored the weight of sacrifice. Harper blinked slowly. I don't know if I'd be strong enough to do that. You'd be surprised, he replied softly. When someone small needs you to survive, you find parts of yourself you didn't know were there. She moved, perching on the edge of the counter across from him. So you gave it all up. I gave up the stage, he said, not the music. Where's it now? She asked gently, his eyes flicked toward her, then back down, voice barely above a breath. Sometimes it stirs, when she laughs, when she sleeps, but I don't play anymore. Why? Because when I touch the keys now, I don't hear music. I hear everything I lost. Harper studied him for a long moment, then said, quietly, you're wrong. His brow lifted. You don't hear what you lost. You hear who you loved. That's not the same. The space around them shifted. It was no longer a hotel kitchen. It felt like a cathedral, sacred, hushed, full of the things they never meant to say aloud. Elliot looked at her. How do you know that? Harper's voice trembled. Because I stopped playing to, long ago, for different reasons. But the silence, I recognize it. He didn't interrupt. I was 12, she said, eyes fixed on the tile floor. My father was a composer, brilliant, and broken music was everything to him. His salvation and his madness. He'd disappear into it for days, and then, just as suddenly, come home and destroy everything he'd written. One night, I played a wrong note, just one, and he said, don't touch that piano again until you're worth hearing. She blinked, but the memory clung like smoke. I never played after that. Elliot's jaw tightened. You still believe him? I don't know, she said, but I still hear him. He stepped away, rinsing his hands under the faucet. The water hissed, then stopped with a soft click. You ever play for someone who doesn't know who you used to be? He asked. She shook her head. No. Maybe that's what we're both missing. The following night, the hotel lobby was empty. It was past midnight, and the only light came from the warm, amber pendants above the grand piano. It gleamed untouched, waiting. Harper sat before it, her hands hovering just above the keys like they were forbidden. Then, gently, tentatively, she played. The first note stumbled, fragile, uncertain, like someone relearning a forgotten language. But she didn't stop. Her fingers remembered more than her mind ever could. Then another pair of hands joined hers, not overpowering, not demanding, just there, a quiet presence building harmony where her nose faltered, catching the melody before it could fall. She didn't look up. She didn't need to. Elliot was beside her, face unreadable, but his music said everything. Together they stitched sound out of memory and silence, a patchwork of half-finished rhythms and unfinished thoughts. It wasn't perfect, but it was beautiful. When they stopped, the silence that followed felt full, not empty. Elliot turned to her. Your left hand still tenses when you're uncertain. Harper let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. So does my heart. He gave a soft nod. The two are usually connected. She smiled faintly. What was that piece we just played? I don't know, he said. We made it up. A real smile bloomed, tired, worn, but real. Maybe we should finish it someday. He nodded. Maybe we already started. Later, as Harper rode the elevator up to her silent penthouse, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope it wasn't loud. It didn't announce itself. It felt like a key gently turning in a door long shut, and beneath all the echoes of Chopin, of Bach, of her father's unforgiving voice, she heard something new. A melody not written by loss. Maybe, just maybe, it belonged to her. The first thing Harper noticed about Elliot's apartment was that it didn't look like it belonged to a janitor. It wasn't luxurious, but it was warm, clean, lifted with intention. A worn couch sat beneath a wall lined with framed sheet music. A bookshelf bowed beneath the weight of classical scores and children's books. The faint scent of cinnamon curled in the air, and a teapot was just beginning to whistle in the kitchen. But the heart of the room was the piano, upright, humble, but polished with care, bathed in sunlight beneath a wide window. Harper hadn't meant to go in. After a casual burger dinner, Luna had tugged her hand and chirped, "Come see my music wall." And before she could refuse, she was inside. Now she stood frozen, staring at the piano. "That's where it started," Elliot said softly, passing her a mug of tea. "I was playing Chopin." Luna let go of the table and walked straight to the piano bench. Luna nodded proudly. "I touched the low C. It was magic." Harper smiled, sipping the tea. "It smells like memories in here. Most days, grief is just that," Elliot replied. "Memory with sharper edges." Luna skipped over, arms full. "Daddy's songs," she declared, holding up a thick, frayed folder. "Well, half. He says most are sleeping." Harper raised an eyebrow. "Sleeping?" Elliot rubbed the back of his neck. "Unfinished ideas. Melodies I was too tired or too scared to chase down." Harper took the folder gently. The first page held a delicate melody, penciled in neat curves. Notes spiraled across the staff like whispers. It ended mid-thought. "You wrote this?" she asked. He nodded. "A lifetime ago." "It's beautiful," she murmured, tracing the last bar. "But it ends too soon." He gave a sad shrug. "So did a lot of things." The silence that followed didn't need words. Then Luna, in a whisper, "Daddy used to play at night. When he thought I was asleep, I always listened." Harper smiled at her. "Do you play too?" "I try," Luna said proudly, "but my fingers are short." "They'll grow," Elliot replied. "They already know more than most people's hearts." Later that night, with Luna asleep and the house dim, Harper sat at the piano beside Elliot. The score lay open between them. "Why this one?" she asked. "Why didn't you finish it?" His voice was low. "Because I wrote it for someone I never got to say goodbye to. Finishing it would have felt like letting go, like she'd really be gone." Harper didn't ask who. She didn't need to. She touched the keys, tender. "I don't think some songs are meant to end. I think they're meant to be open doors." He looked at her, something shifting behind his eyes. "You think I should finish it?" She smiled gently. "No, I think we should." They began slowly, two sets of hands, exploring, daring, not striving for perfection but presence. They filled the blank bars together, layering harmonies and testing new directions. At one point, Elliot paused. "You modulated early." "I know," Harper said, smiling. "It felt right." He shook his head. You're breaking the rules. Rules. Never raised a child alone, she said softly. Rules didn't hold you together when your world collapsed. No, he said, but music did. The clock struck midnight before either noticed. I should get going, Harper whispered. Early day tomorrow. He walked her to the door. As she stepped into the hallway, she turned. I've been thinking about what you said, about sacrifice, survival, and I realized you didn't just give something up. You gave yourself away piece by piece to build something bigger. Then you. He didn't answer. You're not unfinished, Elliot. You're just waiting for someone to turn the page. He swallowed hard. Maybe it's time. She smiled. Good night, Mr. Reed. Good night, Miss Quinn. And as the door clicked, shut between them, Harper realized she hadn't felt this terrified door this alive in years. Not because of who he was, but because of who she was with him. That night, in her penthouse, she sat alone at her piano, dusty, silent. She lifted the lid, placed her hands on the keys, and finished the phrase he'd started. She told herself it wasn't planned. Her next visit, just a detour after a meeting uptown. But deep down, she knew the truth. It wasn't the music she missed, it was the people who made her want to listen. Luna crashed into her at the door, arms around her waist. You came back, she squealed. I was practicing the new piece. I gave it a title. Harper knelt. What is it? Luna held up a drawing, big letters in crayon. The song that never sleeps. Elliot raised an amused brow. Her naming style's dramatic. No, Harper said. She understands something most composers forget. Real music doesn't end when the notes stop. They gathered at the piano again. This time in the golden wash of morning dot, Luna sat tall, fingers poised. Elliot adjusted her wrist with a father's gentle care. Ready? He asked. She nodded, then began. The rhythm was unusual, alive. I hear it in threes, not fours, Luna said. You hear that? Harper asked, eyes wide. It's just there, if you listen with your eyes closed. She's got the ear, Elliot said, pride masked in humility. Knows when a note is off by a breath. Harper watched the girl play her crooked little arpeggios like she was unlocking a secret map. You didn't tell me she was gifted. She's not a trophy, Elliot said. She's just Luna. Harper met his gaze. That's the most beautiful thing a parent can say. Later, while Luna sketched winged pianos and music note hearts, she drew one last figure flowing red hair, a crown, labeled Queen Harper. Harper laughed. I've never been royalty before, but deep down, for the first time in forever, she didn't feel like someone who had broken. She felt like someone who was becoming whole. Asterisk, what we lose. We love deeper. You wear high heels like a queen, Luna said simply. Elliot entered quietly, hands wrapped around two mugs of hot chocolate. He set them down gently, offering a soft smile, the kind reserved for rooms where silence still grieved. Harper blinked, taken aback by the little girl's words. She knew Luna didn't use the term lightly. She only calls someone queen when she feels safe. Elliot explained, voice low, nearly reverent. That's a rare compliment then, Harper murmured. Luna lifted her eyes. I used to call Mommy that too. The air shifted, not awkwardly but with the sacred stillness of memory. Harper settled beside the girl, her voice barely above a whisper. Do you remember her? Little things, Luna said. She smelled like orange. Tea. Her voice sounded like lullabies. Sometimes, when Daddy plays slow songs, I think she's in the room. Harper brushed a wayward strand from Luna's forehead, heart tightening. She sounds like someone who left a lot of love behind. She did, Elliot said softly from the doorway. His voice didn't crack, but it carried the ache of someone who had long since learned how to speak sorrow gently, without letting it scream. Later, when Luna had drifted into the softness of afternoon sleep, Harper found herself pulled toward the bookshelf. Her fingers wandered across the spines of old journals, concert programs, yellowing photo snapshots of Elliot and Luna in parks, hospital wings, and at birthday parties with lopsided cakes and flickering candles. But it was the faded journal. That caught her breath. A red ribbon spilled from its center like a wound that had been opened and closed too many times. Inside were pages of handwritten music melodies surrounded by lyrics half-formed. Verses born of grief and love tangled together in margins and rewrites. A single phrase repeated again and again. What we lose becomes what we love deeper. You wrote lyrics too, Harper said, turning. Elliot was pouring tea, eyes distant. I wrote those when Sarah was in the hospital. He replied, not meeting her gaze. I couldn't save her body, but I tried to write her a lullaby strong enough to stay behind. Harper's throat tightened. Did you ever sing it to Luna? Once. She cried. He whispered, said it sounded like goodbye. Harper sat beside him, placing the journal gently on the table. Maybe now it could sound like home instead. Silence wrapped around them like dusk falling. She's getting worse, Elliot said finally. Harper stilled. More attacks. Her breath shortens faster now. Her color fades before I can even react. The doctors are talking about options I can't afford. His voice broke now loudly, but with the quiet desperation of a man running out of places to hide. Hope. It's not the price of treatment that scares me most. It's the cost of hoping again. Harper didn't reach for a solution. She didn't offer a number or a name or an escape. Instead, she said, then let me sit with you in the middle of that fear. You shouldn't have to carry it alone. He clenched his jaw. I'm not used to people staying when things get hard. Then I'll be the first, she whispered. That night, as Harper gathered her coat to leave, Luna stirred. Harper knelt beside her. Want me to tuck you in? Luna nodded, eyes heavy with sleep. As the blanket rose to her chin, her small fingers curled around Harper's. Can you play that half-finished song again tomorrow? The one Daddy started. Harper smiled. Of course, the girl's voice was a thread of breath. I think that song is helping Daddy come back to life. Harper's heart clenched. I think it's helping me too. She didn't return to her penthouse that night. No wine, no glass walls, no solitude. Instead, she sat at her piano, opened a blank page, and wrote the first line of a new melody. Beneath it, in delicate cursive, for the girl with the perfect ear and the father learning. To listen again. It began as a whisper. A link passed in a group chat, a blurry clip from security footage. A duet between a janitor and the CEO at the Grand Lobby piano. No titles, no dialogue, just fingers on keys, eyes meeting. The harmonies woven into something wordless and hold by noon. The video had bloomed across every floor of LRA Records. Over 200,000 views from private shares alone. The caption read, when the janitor plays a duet with the CEO and the piano remembers. 3 words repeated across every comment. Music, love, fire, and a final question, romance or resignation waiting to happen. Harper Quinn stood in her office, screen frozen mid-frame. Jennifer, her assistant, stood beside her, solemn. It's circulating on Slack, Reddit, even the press, the boards. Already called 6 times. Harper turned slowly. How bad is it? Jennifer hesitated. Mixed reactions. Gossip. Accusations. Speculations. Later, Harper found Elliot in the stairwell, polishing handrails like they were confessionals. He didn't look up. I was wondering when you come, he said. She held out her phone. It's everywhere. I know. You knew someone filmed us. This morning. Payroll guy winked and said, nice duet, maestro. I thought he was having a stroke. This isn't funny. No, it's not. She stepped closer. Her voice dropped. They're twisting this, turning you into something you're not. Me too. They say you're using me, or I'm using you, or you're just a PR project I picked up for sympathy points. He looked at her, finally. And what do you think it is? She swallowed. I think it's real. The most honest thing I've touched in years. Then why do you look like someone already running? Her voice cracked. Because I know how this ends. Tell me. They'll drag me. Question my judgment. Tear down everything I've built. You think I don't know what it's like to watch a life dissolve? He said, I gave up the only thing I was ever praised for. I disappeared so my daughter could breathe. She looked away. I didn't ask for this. No, but you played for it. You chose it, and now you want to hide. I'm trying to protect you. She snapped. No, he said calmly. You're protecting yourself and using me as the reason. That landed like a slap. He didn't flinch. When was the last time you stayed in something messy? He asked. Something unscripted. Something you couldn't fix or control. She had no answer. Just silence. You have no idea the pressure I'm under. You're right, he said. I just know what it feels like to be left behind. Is that what you think I'll do? I don't think it. I see it. The next morning, trade headlines roared. Power ballad or power imbalance. CEO Harper Quinn caught an intimate moment with Janitor. Viral duet sparks ethics inquiry at Lyra Records. By 4 p.m., the board had convened. Harper arrived early, alone. She sat at the head of the table while the men filed in like judgment with briefcases. Richard Quinn, her uncle, spoke first. We need to clarify the optics. Release a statement. Assert that your relationship with Mr. Reed is non-romantic. Set boundaries. Harper looked up. It is romantic. Silence cracked like thunder. I'm not going to lie to make you comfortable, she said. I sat at that piano because I felt something real. I'm not ashamed of it. This could cost us millions. Richard said coldly. Then maybe we should ask why we built something so fragile that one act of humanity could shake it. You're making a mistake. No, Harper replied. For once, I'm choosing something that matters. That evening, Harper stood alone beneath the gray sky. No chauffeur, no entourage, just her. Her phone buzzed. Elliot. We lost something today, didn't we? Or maybe we finally stopped pretending we never had it. She stared, then typed, I don't want to lose you. His reply was immediate. Then don't. But love is rarely that simple. When she arrived at his apartment, there was no answer. A neighbor mentioned a hospital bag, something about Luna. Harper ran. The hallway of the children's ward reeked of antiseptic and fear. She found Elliot in room 312, his hand wrapped tightly around Luna's, the other covering his face as if trying to keep his grief from spilling out. Luna was pale. Oxygen tubes framed her like a fragile sculpture of breath and fight. Her bear lay tucked beneath her arm. How is she? Harper asked softly, critical. He whispered. They had to intubate. Her system crashed fast. Is she awake? She kept asking for the song. The one we were writing. His voice cracked. I couldn't finish it. I promised her. Harper reached for his hand. Then let's finish it now. He looked at her, shattered and whole in the same breath. You think she'll hear us? I think love always finds a way. So they sat. No piano. No grandeur, just the trembling hands tapping out the rhythm on Luna's blanket. A lullaby. Still being born. And when Elliot finally sang, his voice rusty from years of silence, Harper sang with him. The sky is dark, but not for long. The stars still hum while you sleep on. My light, my breath, my dawn to be. I'll play the sun. Back in DRC, Luna didn't open her eyes, but her small fingers twitched. She heard us. Harper whispered. She always does, Elliot said, voice cracking into a smile. Hours later, the doctor returned. Her vitals are stabilizing. He said, the medication is working, but long-term, she'll need advanced treatment. A specialist. Likely. Out of state. Elliot stood. How long? Maybe weeks. Less if there's another episode. The door shut. Silence loomed. I can't afford Boston. Elliot said quietly. I can't even afford another trip. Harper stepped forward. Then let me help. I can't ask you. You didn't ask. She interrupted. I'm offering. Do you know what it feels like to have your dignity measured in invoices? He whispered. She reached up, touched his cheek. Do you know what it feels like to have money and still feel utterly useless? She whispered. Don't rob me of the chance to give something that finally matters. He stared at her, pain and love and surrender in his eyes. Then he pulled her into a fierce, silent embrace and didn't let go. Asterisk, it wasn't romantic. It wasn't performative. Just the people clinging to each other at the jagged edges of fear. The next morning, Harper cleared her entire calendar. She called in every favor she had in pediatric cardiology, greased every bureaucratic gear with quiet, anonymous donations to the hospital foundation, anything to accelerate Luna's transfer. But she didn't just throw money at the problem. She sat at Luna's bedside day after day, telling her enchanting stories, bringing coloring books and noise-canceling headphones, reading music notation like bedtime tales. And slowly, something shifted. Room 312, once steeped in sterile dread, began to breathe differently. The antiseptic tang of fear was replaced by something softer, warmer. It began to smell like hope. 3 days later, Luna was approved for transport. The specialist team in Boston would take her within the week. That evening, Harper returned to Lara Records to sign the last paper stripping her of voting power. The board had cast her out under the guise of a mutual transition. She called it. What it truly was, the cost of honesty died as she packed the remnants of her office. Jennifer stepped in. Her voice was soft. You don't have to leave like this. Harper didn't look up. Yes, I do. They built this tower with no space for people like Elliot, like Luna, maybe not even for me. Jennifer hesitated, then handed her a folder. These came in today, fan letters, not hate mail. People who saw the video. They said it made them feel again. Harper's smile flickered. Then maybe I finally did something that mattered. She walked out that night with 2 things, a cardboard box and Elliot's weathered composition folder. The next time she saw him, they were standing outside the transport vehicle that would take Luna to Boston. Luna looked fragile still, but her spirit was unshaken. Her eyes sparkled with mischief. Her smile was steady. Miss Harper, she whispered, tugging on Harper's coat. Will you visit me after I get my new heart? Harper knelt to her level. I'll be there the day it starts to beat. Luna leaned in closer. Bring the music. Elliot stood quietly nearby, pride clinging to the edges of his grief. Thank you, he murmured. You're welcome, Harper replied. But I didn't save her. You did. Every day you showed up when it was hardest. That's what love looks like. He looked at her. Really looked. You saved me. They stood there long after the car pulled away. No words. Just music humming in the spaces between them, unheard but felt. That night, Harper returned to her piano, alone. She opened a fresh sheet of paper. At the top, she wrote, Finale, the song that never slept. Beneath that, for the girl who fought to breathe and the man who never stopped listening. The boardroom was colder than she remembered. The 42-foot walnut table stretched out like a relic of power. The faces around it were familiar, yet sharpened by discomfort. Harper sat at the head, not as a CEO, but as a woman already untethered. She wore navy, no makeup, no mask. This wasn't strategy. It was surrender, but not defeat. Richard Quinn cleared his throat. He sat across from her like a judge preparing a sentence. The optics haven't improved. He began. The narrative has spiraled. I'm aware. Harper said evenly. He gestured to a legal packet, a mutual separation. Step down quietly. We preserve your reputation. You keep your severance. The press gets a sanitized story. Margot Lynn chimed in. We can frame it as a personal growth move. A new philanthropic direction. Maybe music outreach. Harper didn't flinch. You want me to lie. We want to protect the company, Richard replied, and protect you. Harper leaned forward. You want me to erase the truth because it makes you uncomfortable. Because I did something human in a space built for machines. Because I sat at a piano with someone who wasn't wearing a suit. Margaret's tone sharpened. We're not punishing you for feeling. We're asking you to take responsibility for the risk. Harper's voice was clean and decisive. There is no risk in loving people. The risk lies in pretending we don't. Silence clung to the room like smoke. Richard closed the folder. If you refuse this agreement, we proceed with a no-confidence vote. You will be removed with cause. It won't just affect your severance, it will touch your legacy. Harper exhaled. I carried this company through lawsuits, through recessions, through chaos. I mentored interns who now run departments. And you want me gone because I loved someone you didn't see coming. She looked directly at him. Tell me, Richard, When did we become so afraid of grace? He flinched. Margot looked away. Harper rose. I won't sign your lie, and I won't beg to stay if being human costs me this seat. Then I will build a better table. One where people like Elliot Reed don't have to vanish to survive. One where music still matters. She placed a small envelope in front of him. What is this? A personal donation to the LRA Foundation. Fund music programs for kids who wouldn't otherwise get a chance. Name it whatever you want. Just don't waste it. She turned to the room. I'm not leaving out of shame. I'm leaving because I remembered who I am. No one moved. She didn't take her nameplate. Didn't say goodbye. Some endings don't need punctuation, only purpose. Outside the building, Harper lingered. Her reflection in the glass didn't look like the woman who'd walked in a decade ago. That woman had been driven. Brilliant. Isolated. This woman was awake. She stepped into the sunlight. Not falling. Returning. That night, Harper found Elliot on a park bench near the hospital. His headphones rested around his neck, his eyes fixed on the horizon. She didn't speak. She just sat. After a while, he said, "You're not wearing the armor today. I left it in a boardroom downtown. What happened? I resigned." A long silence. Then, "They'll regret it. Maybe. But I won't." He turned to her fully. "You're different. I remembered something important. That a title is worthless if it costs you the music inside." Elliot looked away. "I didn't want to be the reason you lost everything." "You weren't," Harper said. "You were the reason I found it." She continued, "I saw you fight for your daughter. I heard you play again. I watched you put yourself back together note by note. And it made me want to start again, too. Not just at the piano. At life." He whispered, "She goes to Boston tomorrow." "I know. She's scared. We all are. But we do it anyway. That's love." He smiled. "You really quit." "Not quit. Graduated." He laughed. Exhaling fully for the first time in weeks, she reached into her coat, handed him an envelope. "What's this?" "An invitation." He opened it. "A celebration of new beginnings. Elliot Reed, live at Lincoln Chapel. One night only, proceeds to benefit the Luna Fund for Pediatric Music Therapy." He stared. "I haven't played in front of people in years." "Then let them meet you." "Why me?" "Because the world needs to hear what healing sounds like." His voice cracked. "What if I fail?" She took his hand. "Then fail in front of people who love you. That's the safest place there is." They sat in quiet that wasn't empty, but pregnant with promise. "Do you think she'll be okay?" He whispered, "She has the strongest heart I've ever met, and it's just waiting for a melody worth growing into." The apartment was still. Elliot found the letter on the counter addressed in blocky handwriting. "To Daddy, from Luna." Serious this time, hands shaking. He opened it. "Dear Daddy, if I don't wake up after Boston, don't be sad. I know I was your song, but you're mine too. So if I can't finish our song, promise you'll play it one day. Not alone, in front of people, like Mommy used to say, where love can echo. Tell Miss Harper thank you for finding your music, and tell her I think she's pretty, even when she's mad. P.S. I left something under the piano for when you're ready. Love. Luna, the bravest girl you ever met." He sat in silence, letter trembling in his grip, then moved to the upright piano, long covered in dust but never in grief. He opened the warped panel. Inside, in her mother's old jewelry box, lay a brass key and a sticky note. "Use this when you feel like being loud again." Luna. That key wasn't just a key. It was the spare to Lincoln Chapel. He arrived expecting dust and silence, but the air pulsed with waiting. The grand piano sat at center stage, and on its bench, a letter, her handwriting, Elliot. "Maybe what broke between us doesn't need fixing. Just music. Luna believes in echoes." I booked the room, lit the candles, called in every favor. "This space, this moment, it's yours. Play for her. She's listening. And if you play for me too, I'll be there. H. He folded the letter and sat. This would be the first time he played for his daughter. At 7 p.m., the doors opened. It wasn't a concert. No tickets, just people. A nurse who held Luna's hand, Jennifer. A security guard, dozens, then hundreds who'd seen the video. Who believed in a janitor with music that healed Dot, and when Elliot touched the keys, it wasn't for applause. It was for love that echoes, even without the armor of the boardroom. Margot Lynn stood in the wings, and Harper lingered silently in the back. No flashing cameras, no media circus, just human presence. Elliot didn't utter a word as he stepped onto the stage. He didn't have to. The moment his fingers brushed the piano keys, the air shifted, and the entire room exhaled in one collective breath. What flowed from him wasn't polished or pristine. It was raw earth, music born not of perfection, but of pain, of memory, of truth. The song had no name. It didn't need one. It was built from fragments of life, sterile hospital nights, a mop dragged down linoleum hallways, the fragile miracle of Luna's first word, the thunderous quiet after his wife's last breath. It carried Harper's voice to her words. You were the reason I found it. The room wept, not from sorrow, but from recognition. Midway through the performance, Harper moved to the front row, eyes wide and steady. She didn't cry. She listened, and Elliot, never looking up, whispered through the music, "This is for you, too." When the last note faded, no applause followed. Silence clung to the space like reverence, sacred and still. Then, softly, one by one, people approached the stage, placing flickering candles at its base, each flame a memory, a prayer, each one a flicker of Luna. Later, Harper sat beside Elliot on the now empty stage. "Do you think she heard it?" he asked. Harper laced her fingers through his. "I think she was the one playing it through you." Elliot's head bowed. "I didn't think I had anything left." She rested her head gently on his shoulder. "You were never empty," she whispered, "just waiting." "Daddy," Luna murmured from her hospital bed. "Can you play it again, the song from the candles?" Elliot's breath caught. He looked up. Her voice clear, steady, not blurred by drugs or dulled by fatigue. Her eyes, though shadowed, shimmered with something he hadn't seen in weeks. Hope. He rose so quickly his chair scraped across the floor. "Luna," he breathed, seizing her hand like it was the thread tying him to the world. She smiled faintly. "It was loud in my dreams, and warm." He kissed her forehead, tears spilling without shame. "You heard it." "I think I was it," she whispered. Harper, watching from across the room, arms folded tight, eyes raw and red, spoke gently. "She woke up an hour after you played." The nurse said. It was like her heart remembered how to fight. Elliot turned to her, his voice trembling. "I don't know what to say." "Then don't," Harper replied, soft and steady. "Just stay here, with her." That night, Luna stayed awake longer than she had in months. She sipped warm broth, toyed with a teddy bear, and even persuaded a nurse to let her color in bed. And through it all, Elliot remained by her side, quietly humming that same unfinished lullaby. At one point, Luna looked up. "You didn't quit, Daddy." Elliot blinked. "Quit what?" "Music, life, me." He was silent, then spoke low. "I thought I did, but I was wrong." She grinned sleepily. Miss Harper was right. Love echoes even in silence. A week later, Luna was transferred to the Boston Cardiac Center. Harper orchestrated every detail, logistics, specialists, even securing a temporary apartment nearby for Elliot. It wasn't charity. It was an investment in love, in healing, in everything spreadsheets couldn't quantify. Elliot tried to repay her, tried to protest, but Harper always silenced him. "I've spent years buying silence," she said one evening as they strolled the quiet city streets, "donating to cousins just to hush my guilt. But this, helping you, helping her, this is the first time I've ever felt like I'm building something worth hearing." He stopped beneath a soft glowing street lamp and looked at her. "You know you're part of the melody now, right?" She smiled, small and full. "I was hoping you'd say that." The night before Luna's surgery, they shared a simple dinner in the apartment, soup and grilled cheese, elevated to elegance with cloth napkins. To Luna, it was a banquet. Mid-dash meal. Luna turned to Harper. "Do you love my dad?" Harper choked. On her water. Elliot froze. Luna. He gasped. What? She asked innocently. You look at each other like the movies, but real. Harper cleared her throat and composed herself. Well, your dad is very special. I know. Luna nodded. He hides it, but he's basically magic. Elliot groaned, hiding his face. I'm officially mortified. Harper leaned in, eyes twinkling. And if I did love him, Luna shrugged. Then you should tell him before his hair gets too gray. Laughter filled the room deep, rooted, healing laughter. That sang in their bones. Later that night, Luna fell asleep curled against her father's chest. Harper sat beside them. They sat in silence for a long while until Elliot whispered, She's not wrong. About what? Harper asked. You should probably tell me before it's too late. Harper looked at him, weary but alive. And then, with no grand gesture, she said, I love you, Elliot Reed. He didn't blink, didn't flinch. He simply leaned in and kissed her tenderly, reverently, as though he'd just come home. The next morning, Luna was wheeled into surgery. The waiting room was a sterile purgatory of fluorescent lights and ticking clocks. Elliot paced. Harper sat rigid, hands clasped, knuckles pale. Hours passed. Then the surgeon appeared. He looked exhausted, but he smiled. She made it. Elliot crumpled into a chair. Harper clutched his hand as tears streamed freely. She's a fighter. The doctor added. The moment we closed, her heart found the rhythm instantly, like it had been waiting. Elliot laughed through sobs. She's always had a beat of her own. That night, Elliot returned to the chapel, but this time, Harper was already there, seated at the piano. He joined her wordlessly, and together, they played not for an audience, but for the echo of a girl whose heart had carried them all. Their song would one day open music therapy centers across the country. It would be taught in schools, sung in hospital wards, hummed by strangers. But it would always belong to three people, a janitor, a CEO, and a little girl who believed in echoes. Spring returned. Under blooming dogwood trees, Luna skipped along the cobblestone path to Lincoln Chapel, her dress fluttering, laughter like song in the air. A small scar peeked from her collar, a badge of survival she wore without shame. Careful, Elliot called from behind. Daddy. She spun with hands on her hips. You're the one who said scars are just proof we kept going. He chuckled. Did I? You say smart things when you think I'm asleep. Harper walked beside him, hand in his. She gets that from you. No, Elliot said, eyes on her. She gets that from us. They stepped into the chapel not as broken remnants, but as something whole. The audience was filled not with the elite, but with teachers, janitors, nurses, single moms, people who had been moved by a story about music, healing, and a second chance. Harper knelt beside Luna. You sure you remember the first part? Luna beamed. I practiced every day with Daddy. Harper smiled. And if you get nervous, I'll just pretend you're a giant marshmallow. They both giggled. Then Elliot stepped forward. Tonight isn't about perfect notes. He told the crowd. It's about what happens when we let our broken pieces sing. He turned. Luna. The room held its breath as she stepped forward. Elliot lifted her to the bench. They didn't need the sheet music. The melody lived in their bones. Luna began soft, tentative, brave. Then, when her hands faltered, she turned to him. Your turn. He took over, not with flair, but with devotion. And as the final note neared, he paused and nodded. A string quartet rose. A children's choir stood. The room became the song. People cried, held hands, closed their eyes, because they knew this sound not from memory, but from meaning. It was hope, forgiveness, redemption. Afterward, no one hurried to leave. Luna clutched a white lily someone had given her. Do you think Mommy heard us? She asked. Elliot knelt. I think she wrote the bridge. Outside, Harper waited by the doors. When Elliot reached her, she touched his cheek. I knew your silence wasn't empty, she said. He took her hand to his heart. You filled it. She tilted her head. So, what happens now? Elliot looked around. I think we keep playing. And they did. In the weeks that followed, Elliot launched a foundation, the song, that never ends, bringing music therapy to hospitals, schools, and shelters. Harper left the boardroom, not as a CEO, but as a co-founder, a pianist, a believer. They didn't seek fame. They sought connection. They built a life of soft songs and Sunday pancakes. Letters from children who had never felt heard until now. And each night, Luna would say, "Play me the song, Daddy, the one that found me." So he would, until sleep claimed her, until silence echoed love. Because some stories don't end. They become echoes. And maybe that's all life is, not the noise we make when we're seen, but the music we leave behind when we love, even in silence.